someone commented on one of my videos recently that they run just straight 50 weight engine oil in their Toyota diesel. Like, oh my god. Like, I tell people, like, hey, 15W40 is fine. You can run 15W40 in your car, like, that's fine. Like, 5W50 is a great diesel engine oil, blah, blah, blah. And this dude's just like, I run straight 50 weight. Like, no multi-grade, just straight 50 weight. And I was just like, what? What the duck? Like, where are you even getting straight 50 weight? Like, did you find, like, a World War II Nazi submarine that you're just harvesting the oil from every oil change? Like, it's got to be easier to come by a multi-grade, right? It's got to be easier to come by, like, even a 20W50 in, like, the most third world country on earth. Like, you'd be able to find, like, a bottle of Castrol GTX 20W50 from, like, 2006 on the shelf somewhere. Let alone, like, actively seeking out straight 50 weight. That must be like molasses, pouring that into your engine. And, like, again, just because it runs doesn't mean it's happy. I do not recommend, like, not using a multi-grade oil. Diesel prices skyrocketing. I think if you look at California as an example, like, California's gone out and basically forced people to drop their petrol, diesel, hybrid cars and just go straight into an EV. And the rest of the world is following suit. Like, New Zealand is just like, buy an EV, you little SOBs. And it's like, why? Why are you forcing people into this? In 100 years' time, no one is going to be driving a petrol or a diesel car. No one. There won't be any. Like, Vision, this van, will be kept at a company that doesn't exist right now. There'll be a new industry that opens up with, like, a big storage facility where they will take great-granddad's Ferrari, they will take grandpa's Toyota Hiace Super Custom, and grandma's Skyline GTR and Porsches and things like that. They'll take these heirloom cars and they will keep them, store them, wash them, maintain them. There'll be people like you and me from the future. The people that aren't even born yet. They'll know what engine oil is and they'll know how to refuel a car. And your great-great-grandson will be like, oh my god, refueling a petrol vehicle, it's like a bomb on wheels. They're not going to touch that. And these people, they'll take these cars, they'll organize it, they'll organize, like, drives and days out, and maybe, like, at a racetrack or approved environments where, you know, an explosive, dangerous weapon like a Hyundai i30 or something, or Toyota Corolla can be used safely. And then your great-grandchildren, things like that, would be able to show up and drive these cars around for, like, I don't know, half an hour, 2 hours. And then they'll be taken back to this facility and cleaned up and put away in storage. Natural progression will take its course. Everyone will switch over to an EV eventually, naturally. But forcing people into EVs right now is just a wrong thing, as witnessed by what California has done. Especially when you consider, like, a government having some sort of, like, private equity, private interest in, like, a private company. Obviously, there's more EVs out there than what most people know, but I'm willing to bet if you asked a lot of people, like, describe an EV for me, most of them aren't going to say it's a vehicle that's propelled by motors that are fueled with electronic battery cells. They ain't going to say that. If you ask most people what an EV is, they'll say Tesla. That's it, right? And I think there's a lot of, like, conflict of interest when a government starts pushing people to, like, buy an EV. And when most people think of EVs as Teslas. And then you get things like California with these crazy droughts and things like that. People running AC, and then, you know, so many people now have Teslas and they need to charge them, and the power grid's coming down in Los Angeles, and they're saying, stop charging your Teslas. The cars that we've been forcing you to buy, you can't charge anymore because we don't have the electricity to cope with it. And I think a lot of this fuel price stuff could, if there was a conspiracy, come down to governments saying, we can't force them into an EV, but we can force them to ditch their diesel and buy an EV or buy a hybrid or petrol or something if we just, you know, jack up the prices. Because if we force them into it and then something like California happens, they'll be like, well, you told me to do it. Now it's your fault that, my EV crapped itself. And, Tesla's famous for not letting you work on your car. They're famous for not being able to provide something as simple as brake pads because they don't have any stock, or the supply chain is all messed up and things like that. So when these cars fail and die, it's not like a petrol or hybrid car where a third party can provide you with a battery, you put it in and the engine will still work and it'll drive you, wherever you need to go. If the engine blows, you can replace it for a used one for like $2 or $3 grand. It's not like that because they can software lock you out. And the EV is not really considered like a car, it's more like a phone. So you may have heard about the whole right to repair thing, where companies like Apple and like big tech companies hire lobbyists, which is legal, to go to these decrepit old elderly people in Congress and say, you can't let anyone fix their cell phone or their mobile phones or their watches or their tablets, because this was designed by an expert electronic engineer, and when little Joey opens it up, this is what could happen to little Joey. And then they play a little clip of like some douchebag sitting there with like a battery and he stabs it with a paper clip and it like catches fire, and these decrepit old people are like, oh my god, like we can't let little Joey do that to himself, like ban all repairs. And so they don't sell parts and things, and that's what's going to happen with these EVs. Like, was it General Motors just recently that a car that was like, was it the Volt? I don't know, I'm not too sure. It was like 6 years old or something, and they just refused to sell a new battery for it. So all these cars, the batteries age out on them, and GM was like, no, we don't sell any more batteries, we don't support that car anymore, buy another one, buy a new one. And so you've got this like 1.82 ton paperweight that only lasts 8 years. So what happens when you can't get brake pads for your Tesla? What happens when they won't sell you a battery pack? What happens when you buy an aftermarket battery pack, or one that's been refurbished, and you put it in professionally, you get someone to do it and they plug it in, but it won't work because just like Apple, if you change, if you bought 2 brand new Apple iPhones and you swap the screens over professionally by someone who knows what they're doing, it'll brick itself. Like, it won't work, even though it's a genuine part and things like that, because it's software locked. You're not allowed to tinker with it. With an old car, they can't software lock you out because someone will just put a new ECU in it. You can't do that with an EV. And yeah, so I think if I was a conspiracy theorist, they're probably going to force you out of having a diesel first, price you out of it, basically. And then when you buy an EV and it craps itself and things like that, the government will be like, well, I never told you to buy an EV. I never told you to do that. Anyway, that's my little rundown. I just wanted to have a chat and get things off my chest. Thanks for your time. Goodbye.